Hi, I'm John Cranton with JimFeist.com. Going to take a look at the 2014 AFC South in the NFL. You know, if quarterback play is everything, well, the AFC South has only one real team, and that's the Colts with Andrew Luck. The Titans, Texans, and Jaguars are going to be scrambling for quarterbacks and probably wins. Now we'll start with the Colts. Las Vegas has them projected at 9.5 wins. Colts are back-to-back 11-5 seasons last year, 10-6-1 against the spread, so they're a team to beat in this very weak division. In fact, they were a perfect 6-0 in the division. Now the Colts offense ranks 17th in the NFL in passing, 21st in rushing behind quarterback Andrew Luck, 23 touchdowns, only 9 interceptions. He certainly carried the team with 3,822 yards passing. They actually tried to run the football more, and Luck's sacks total dropped from 41 as a rookie to 32 last year. The addition of running back Trent Richardson early last year was a failure, just 2.9 yards per carry, wasting a first-round pick. Running back Donald Brown is fine in the backfield, 5.3 yards per carry, 537 yards. It's still a much better passing attack with veteran wide receiver Wedgie Wayne, 503 yards. T.Y. Hilton, he had 1,083 yards. And young tight end Kobe Fleener, who had 608 yards. But offensive coordinator Pep Hamilton insists he still wants balance. Now the defense of the Colts, they were 13th in the NFL against the pass, but 26th against the run last season, allowing a whopping 125 yards rushing per game. They did have that playoff win over Kansas City, but gave up 44 points in an epic comeback. Now that defense got bowled over the next week in a 43-22 loss at New England. This is nothing new. 2 years ago, the Colts were 26th in the NFL in total defense, horrible against the run, giving up 137.5 yards rushing per game. That was 29th in the NFL. And that's why defensive end Arthur Jones is aboard, a fifth-year player with the Baltimore Ravens. Jones started 13 games this past season. He had 52 tackles and 4 sacks. They still have 24-year-old nose tackle Josh Chapman. He's 340 pounds and played at Alabama 13 games for the Colts last year and could improve the run defense. Now defensive end Robert Mathis, boy, he's off a monster season, 19.5 sacks. He's not going to approach that this year. He's suspended for the first 4 games of the 2014 season for violating the NFL drug policy. Now after getting outscored by 30 points 2 years ago, Indy last season was plus 55 in points, so this young team is heading in the right direction and should win the division again. Now the schedule for the Colts are going to open at Denver, a team they beat 39-33 last year. The bye week comes in week 10, which is nice, followed by 3 straight home games in November. Now they do host the Patriots, a team that has scored 59 and 43 on them the last 2 years. Colts also bring an 8-4 run over the total into the new season, a trend that could continue with a much better offense than defense. Number 2 position, we're going to look at the Houston Texans. They're projected at 7.5 wins. You look at the last 3 years, Houston went from 10-6 record to 12-4, and then last year a train wreck of 2-14, straight up 4-10 against the spread. Houston was a huge flop, and a new coaching staff is going to take over, led by Bill O'Brien from Penn State. He was also offensive coordinator with the Patriots before that. Now, they were outscored by 152 points. Only the Jaguars were worse. In fact, the Jaguars swept this Houston team last year. Amazing, because the previous 2 years, Houston outscored opponents by 103 and 85 points. That was third best in the AFC before that train wreck last year. They also had their first playoff win in franchise history, a 19-13 win over the Bengals 2 years ago. So for 2014, O'Brien has to improve the quarterback spot, and he has 2 players, rookie quarterback Tom Savage from Pittsburgh and a 10-year veteran in quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick. He was with the Bills and Titans the last 2 years. Fitzpatrick's had 24 touchdowns and 16 picks, and then 14 touchdowns and 12 picks. At first glance, it looks like a Band-Aid, but O'Brien is actually very high on Fitzpatrick. Now, there's no shortage of skill position talent around the quarterback. Running back Adrian Foster looks to bounce back from an injury. He had just 542 yards rushing last year, but in 2012, he had 1,424 yards. They still have wide receiver Andre Johnson. I know he's not happy, but boy, you wouldn't know it by his play on the field. 1,407 yards receiving last year, 5 touchdowns. Second-year wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins was very good as a rookie with 802 yards. The offense last year ranked 15th in the NFL in passing, 20th in rushing. getting rid of turnover machine. Quarterback Matt Schaub should help. He had 10 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. A pair of rookies are going to help out in UCLA guard Xavier Suafilo, as well as Iowa tight end C.J. Fedorowicz. He was taken in, those two guys were taken in the second and third rounds. Now the first round pick was overall pick Jadeveon Clowney. You team him with J.J. Watt. God, the guy who had 20.5 sacks 2 years ago, 10.5 sacks last year. Plus you got the return of all-pro linebacker Brian Cushing coming back healthy. Houston ranks 7th in total defense last year, allowing 317.6 yards per game. They were 3rd against the pass, 23rd against the run. In fact, the last years, this team has ranked 6th, 7th, and 7th in total defense. Now, the schedule for Houston, they're going to open with the Redskins, Raiders, Giants, and Bills. Boy, you have to think about it. Could Houston be 4-0 after that train wreck last year? And after that, they're going to be playing 5 of 7 games on the road. That's actually after week 2. They do get the bye week in week 10, which is a nice break, and they're going to end the season playing 4 of 6 games at home. Keep in mind the last 3 years, the Houston Texans, 28, 22-1 under the total. Third place, we're going to take a look at the Tennessee Titans. The Vegas projected win total will be 7. Tennessee's win totals the last 3 years, 9, 6, and 7. Last year's team was 3-5 at home. They struggled on offense and couldn't stop the run for the second straight year, allowing 112.2 yards rushing per game. That was 20th in the NFL. They were 7-9 straight up, 6-6-4 against the spread after a 3-1 start. In fact, they're on a 9-5-1 run over the total. So Tennessee has a new head coach in Ken Wisenhunt, taking over for fired Mike Munchak. The offense was 21st in the NFL in passing, 14th in rushing. Quarterback Jake Locker was actually pretty good. 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions before suffering a season-ending injury. The team went 3-6 under him. That was under Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's still in the division. Now he moved on, along with running back Chris Johnson. On the offensive line, they can use some help after Johnson averages 3.8 yards per carry, and running back Sean Green averaged 3.9 yards per carry. But they're actually going to get it with tackle Taylor Lewin. He was the 11th overall pick out of Michigan. 1 year ago, they took Alabama guard Chance Warmack with a 10th overall pick. So a lot of young talent on this offensive line. Throw in rookie running back Bishop Sankley. He was taken in the 2nd round out of Washington. He's aboard, along with rookie quarterback Zach Mettenberger out of LSU. Passing game certainly has talent with wide receiver Kendrell Wright. He had over 1,000 yards last year. Plus, Jason Hunter had 354 yards, but he had a pair of 100 yards receiving late in the season. Now, the defense for Tennessee, they finished 11th in the NFL against the pass, but only 20th against the run. The biggest change is that Wisenhunt is bringing in coordinator Ray Horton. He runs an attacking 3-4 defense and is going to be forced to try and fit players that really weren't in Tennessee's 3-4 scheme last year. Zach Brown and Derek Morgan are pieces to build around at defensive end. They got linebacker Akeem Ayers. He's very good. And Jarrell Casey was a monster, racking up 10.5 sacks from the defensive tackle position. Now, this team is 12, 20-4 against the spread run. Now, for the schedule for Tennessee, they're going to be playing 3 of their first 4 games on the road. Those road games will be at Kansas City, Cincinnati, and the Colts. Very tough road games. Also going to be playing tough road games at the Ravens, at the Skins, at the Eagles, and at the Texans. They probably should be shooting for an 8-8 campaign because they're probably not good enough to have a winning season. Finally, in last place, we're going to look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Vegas projected for win total is 4.5. Jacksonville was outscored by -202 last year and -189 back in 2002. A terrible 2-year run. They were 3-5 on the road last year, oddly enough, but just 1-7, 1-6-1 against the spread at home. Gus Bradley left the Seattle Seahawks 1 year before winning the Super Bowl to coach this team. Jaguars are kind of rolling the dice on offense to try and jumpstart things, which they really have to. And then they did that by drafting quarterback Blake Bortles with the 3rd overall pick. So they're really putting all the chips on this young, run-oriented quarterback who will be a rookie. There's actually no shortage of young talent around him with wide receiver Marquise Lee out of USC, Allen Robinson out of Penn State. 2 rookies, both taken in the 2nd round. They still have wide receiver Ace Saunders, 484 yards. And wide receiver Cecil Shorts, he had 777. They're back, and they're hoping to get Justin Blackmon's head out of his backside. There's a lot of talent at wide receiver. They actually like running back Toby Gerhardt. He was Adrian Peterson's backup. And the offense has top college talent, but very little experience. The Jaguars offense ranked 22nd in passing last year, 31st in rushing the football. As this team neglected the offensive line, well, Jaguar quarterbacks were sacked 50 times 2 years ago, and then 50 times last season. They took Luke Joeckel with the number 2nd overall pick last year out of Texas A&M. He's beginning his 2nd season. And they had Brandon Linder. He's a guard taken out of University of Miami with the 3rd round. Jaguar defense last year, 26th against the pass, 29th against the run. Strengths is the linebacking core, very decent, anchored by Paul Posluszny and Geno Hayes, 2 of their top 3 tacklers. Justin Babin had 7.5 sacks, helped boost the pass rush a little bit. They had 20 sacks 2 years ago to 31 sacks last year. Still, this team 27 and 21 under the total the last 3 years, a trend that's probably going to continue. And they probably will get 5 wins or more over this Vegas total because of all the talent, the young talent, and actually a very weak schedule. They're going to be playing the Titans twice, the Redskins, Giants, Ravens, Texans twice. Then you got the Broncos, Dolphins, and Cowboys. There's a lot of weak teams that they're going to be playing. Probably could squeeze over that 4.5 sacks, especially if Blake Bortles is a little bit better than advertised. Make sure you check out JimFeist.com for NFL previews as well as college football previews, all of the divisions. Those and more at JimFeist.com.